Nobody gets out of this life unscathed where we don't find obstacles in our way. Everyone is going to find at some point in their life that they need somebody else. I think my parents have a picture of me on a rock in the Jemez Mountains, and I must have been 3 or 4. From there on, I think I've just had such an immense love for the outdoors and fly fishing. Both my grandparents fished and my dad fished. He loved fishing so much that he would actually get off of work at the post office and then go get us, me and my brother, and then drive up to the Jemez and fish for just an afternoon. I was a kid when I was in Jemez or one of the places, and there was this man who was fly fishing, and we were on the bank spin fishing, and he was just killing them. You know, he was catching like 4 to R1, and it looked graceful, and he was by himself. It looked quiet, and I thought, I want to do that someday. You know, I want to learn how to fly fish. But you know, you're Hispanic, young, not with a lot of money. There's not a lot of exposure to fly fishing. Nobody I knew fly fished. I don't mean to sound social justice warrior, but there weren't many brown people in the industry then. I mean, it was predominantly like an older white person thing that would go to these shows, and a lot of the people that were up there were older and white, and they were the godfathers of the sport. To be a minority and to be exposed to fly fishing is really unheard of, and it's still like that today. I asked my parents for a fly tying kit, and they got me this fly tying kit that was pretty rudimentary. I mean, it had a book and maybe enough to tie a royal wolf, a parachute Adams, and a hare's ear, and like a caddis larva. So I got it for Christmas. It stayed in my closet for about 6 months, 7 months before I got bored enough to use it. Pulled it out and then taught myself slowly, very slowly, how to tie flies before I even learned how to fly fish. The fly tying desk, utilitarian, commercial tire, tie a bunch of flies. And then I always have done this for like the last 10 years. I surround myself with stuff that I love. So I have like pictures of my kids here. And then this is an old antique reel that was given to me by one of my clients. This is He-Man. The 80s babies will remember He-Man. And this, for instance, is from my grandma's funeral. She died last year. There's my son and my daughter. And some of the stickers that I've gotten. All of this stuff sort of reminds me that where I've come from. You always have to remember, no matter what happens to you in life, that you have a story, that you have a family, you have ancestors, that you have hardships, and all of that encompasses who you are. So I fill this entire space with that sort of stuff to remind myself. And the reason why I put it all out here is because when you're tying commercially, I think you tend to buy extra of things if you can't see it. And it also gives you inspiration. So if I'm working on a bug, and let's say it's just using copper, so it uses this copper, and you think, oh, well, you know what? There's 2 different colors of copper. I wonder if I mix the lighter copper and the golden copper, or how about copper and black? How about copper and blue, blue and black? So I think it gives me a lot of inspiration as I go through my tying process. There are people who are just tying flies and getting famous for that. They'll change something about a fly and then call it something else, you know, and it's important to say, hey, Juan Ramirez or Rick Takahashi, Eli Gonzalez, all these people had influenced me and come up with this pattern a long time before I did. Half of the stuff that I do is really just the godfathers of the San Juan tires, you know, like Johnny Gomez and Dave Torres. Those are the guys who came before me, who invented all of these flies that we use all over the country now. The Johnny Flash, everybody knows it's a Johnny Flash or a Desert Storm, but they don't know that it was Johnny Gomez that invented that fly. And we're talking about before small hooks even were made. So these guys and girls were having to ask the companies to make size 24s and 26 hooks because nobody made them. They were groundbreakers in every sense when it comes to small flies, because on the San Juan we had to fish that way, or else you just don't catch fish, you know. And it's such a pressure cooker environment for your clients that you have to be the best, or you won't book trips. Then everybody can see everybody on that river, who's catching it, who's not. When I tie these flies, even though they look like they're the same, there are different threads or different spacing, different wire material, different ribbing material. So everything, while I'm focused in on an orange sparkle larva, for instance, I'm not so focused in that I can't tweak it a little bit, use different hooks, different sizes. It's that kind of specific detail, that attention to detail, that makes somebody a good fly tyer or not, I think.
So I was telling Jude yesterday, we were just talking about, like, you know, when you fish, you know, a lot of these clients or people, they just assume that fish just eat all the time, right? And I tell them, I'm like, you got to put that into perspective and put it into human terms so you understand it a little bit more in terms of yourself. You wake up and sometimes you don't eat until 2-3 o'clock, right? And there's days, there's not many, but there's some days where you're just busy, or you just don't think about eating, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, I better eat. And sometimes I think the fish just do that. They just sit there sometimes, you know. In the summer when those trico spinner falls are happening big time, those fish know they're gonna eat. It's like, hey, you and I have a date tomorrow at Golden Corral. Meet me there at 9. So I'm not gonna eat breakfast, right? You know, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, something like that. You eat, go bonkers, right? And then you're done about an hour later, and you're just like rolling out of there. On the way there, you're starving, but then on the way back, you're just like, I just gotta go home, lay on the couch. And that's you know, that's what those fish do. They just eat, and then they're done. Flux capacitor, baby.
Oh, it's a big old brown.
Nice one. Got that.
I got him.
Got a good one?
Side pressure.
Yeah.
Side pressure. A lot of these fish will just fight you like stagnant, like a log. Then you want to reach down there, wet your hands, And just cradle it kind of like that. Don't keep it out of the water too long.
Masterclass.
Yep. Nobody gets out of this life unscathed where we don't find obstacles in our way. Everyone is going to find at some point in their life that they need somebody else. I was at the upper echelon of my life, at the pinnacle of my fly fishing career. I had guided like 210 days the year before. I mean, this is a lot of guiding. 2001, 9/11 happens. And it kind of triggered this mental breakdown where I was going to the University of New Mexico at the time and went to their health center and saw a really good counselor who saw right away that I had OCD and prescribed me Zoloft. And I didn't know this at the time, but you're not supposed to give somebody with OCD and anxiety who's on Zoloft methylphenidate. It can make their obsessions a lot worse. So a couple of months after I started taking the methylphenidate or the Ritalin, I'm watching this show on the Discovery Channel or the Learning Channel, one of those, and it's on this guy who robbed banks, and he had robbed these banks and then got away a bunch of times. So I started thinking that night about how I could have caught that guy. Like, he had to have made a mistake somehow. My alarm goes off at 6 in the morning, and I hadn't even slept. I was ruminating. I was obsessing about that bank robbery. The obsessive compulsive disorder is all about these obsessions and the compulsions that you do to get rid of the obsessions. And I'm just barely hanging on. And then it just broke. So I tell my wife at the time, I'm gonna go fishing in Colorado. And I had all the stuff planned already. I've been planning for 6 months. I just throw everything in the vehicle and then drive up to Colorado.
Suspect in custody. I don't know if you picked that up.
in
Out south of
custody.
town, yeah. I can't really comment on that right now. So this is probably going to be the this is going to be the FBI's jurisdiction as far as
That's what I wondered.
it's going. So I think they're all doing fine. I don't think there's any injuries at this time or anything of that. There's some of the employees are upset, is what it sounds like. Obviously, and they gave us an actual description of the suspect.
Was it a man in a white vehicle by chance?
That's about the only thing we've got was a male driving a white vehicle. So
And
that
you
was
think he
about
got caught south of town?
it. Yeah, 550 and I'm not sure exactly where on 550 what the crossroad was.
Did he give them a note or anything, or do you
Don't know that either. So
bank evacuated?
no, we've still got employees inside. So yeah.
How long will it be?
I get processed, and then there are probably 4 sets of doors. You know, everything's happening at once, so I don't remember. I was so excited to get free that I have no idea, but I know that there are clanging of doors because you have to go through this door, get locked into this causeway, this breezeway, and then that door gets locked, and then they open the next door, and there are sets of doors so that nobody else can escape. And finally, I get through the last sets of doors, and my brother and my dad are on the other side. And I remember crying, I think. I know I was smiling from ear to ear. And that they had this look of disbelief and happiness on their faces. And I don't know how I must have looked because it's so overwhelming you don't get to appreciate it when it happens. But the first time that I walked outside of that red door and down those steps, the happiest time of my life. Because, you know how I said that all of that microcosm exists and none of this world existed for me when I was out there? When I walked out the doors and I saw the neighborhood and I saw the trees and the grass and the people walking and the people driving, it hit me that I was free and that I could hug my family for longer than 15 seconds, that I could drive a car or drive in a car. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. Took about 8 months to finally get sentenced. The most human moment I ever had is admitting that I did something wrong and seeing the person whose life I had affected and seeing them bawl and I'm bawling and knowing that I'm sincerely sorry for what I did. If you don't take responsibility for what you did, there's no way to move on past that, you know? For me, a lot of the fly fishing was associated with the bank robbery because around the time of my fly fishing career, when it was getting really good, I was psychotic and then robbed the bank. So I associate the two things when I get out of prison. So I don't really want to go there. I don't really want to touch it. And I'm at my parents' house and my brother asked if I want to go fishing to the San Juan. And that's one of the most special trips of my life. Finally, on that fishing trip is where I started to feel normal again, like a regular person, a year after I get out of prison. I think he knew that it meant a lot to me. I think he wanted to share that with me. And he knew just instinctively, without saying, he knew that that's the way he was going to support me after I got out of prison. When you encounter Christ, when you encounter God, face to face and you experience that, it's another kind of it. My life before that existed, and now my life after accepting Christ and after coming to God is completely different. It exists now and it'll never be the same as before. And there's no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't have made it through if it wasn't for God. God's hand and will was working in my life from the time that I got there to the time that I left to right now. This fly fishing is so beautiful because it's not only that did they influence you on how you tie flies. These men and women come into your lives and they add so much to your life. And fly fishing has made this community of people where we're there for each other. And I hope that for some people, someday when I'm gone, that they're sitting there talking about me in the same way that I'm talking about these people. $850 flies at $3 a piece. That's conservative.
Yeah,
Oh, $2,550. This box is worth $2,500. That's ridiculous. So if anybody wants to trade me like a Honda Civic or a Honda Accord for a box of flies, yeah, I'm good to go.
That's a good.